Sketch is a great application to do like wireframing and make up comps and things like that. You can download it from the internet. Of course, it's called Sketch. Sketch app is the kind of the way they describe it. It's called sketchapp.com. This is the website. I believe there's a trial version, download trial version. I'm not sure. What's that?
I can't even use it. It's only for Macs.
It's only for Mac? They don't have it for Windows? Oh, look. Yeah. Wow. I thought they'd have a Windows version, no?
For Macs.
Maybe because it's recognizing that I'm on a Mac.
Well, the page itself says professional digital something for Mac.
I understand that, but maybe.
Scroll down, it says exclusively for Mac.
Oh, does it? Okay, well, whatever. You Windows people need to get yourself on board with the whole Apple thing, okay?
I don't like Apple.
Whatever. I'm sorry to tell you. I'm sure there's something similar on Windows that does. I don't know.
By hand code anyway.
I know. But no, this is a good planning app. The purpose of the app is for planning. Okay? It's not necessarily going to write the code for you. It's $100. And I don't know. It's a planning app. Okay, let's get started. So again, it's here. Let's start from the beginning. It should be on your computer already if you want to try it. I just want to go over some basics, and then we'll go back to talking about the where we left off on the book yesterday. So this is what you get when you open up Sketch. You are faced with a new window. I think last class I showed you how I started with a new document and I made all the different size screens. Do you remember that? I think some of us remember that, hopefully. Again, you can say Android design, icon design, iOS app icon, iOS UI design, material design, and of course web design. So you have all these kind of template starting points. If you choose one, let's say we want to design something for Android, and we choose material design. It'll give you pretty much the same thing that you can download from the Android website or the Google website. This document that you see here, if you don't have Sketch, you can download this entire document right here, the same document that they have there, this whole thing right here. And if you remember from last semester, we actually downloaded this in the interface design class. Some of us were in there, I don't know. And so this whole document that you see right here that has all the Android pre-made material design information is perfectly downloadable. And here we can go and look for it. If you just go to Google material design and you go here, there is a place where you can download that. I think this is, they changed the website. I know it's in here somewhere. Hold on. Material design light, material design for Android. Here it is. And then yeah, so if you just search for the material design here, there is a place that you can actually download this same document that you are looking at inside a Sketch, this kind of pre-made general sheet here. So if I zoom in, again, this is just like this is just like the Adobe software. If you hit the space bar, you get a little hand that allows you to drag around as you're zooming. To zoom, you hit Command plus to zoom in, Command minus to zoom out. So as you can see, the starting point for the Android or the material design has examples of fonts. Of course, you got the Roboto font. If you don't have Roboto on your computer, you can go and download the latest Roboto so that you can use it while you're working inside of the application. One of the other things this application allows you to do is also have Google fonts. So even like you have Android here, you can actually download any of the Google fonts. And when you go over to type some text in this program, if you go to the text tool and you go to type in some text, it says type something. You'll notice right here you can actually have the Google fonts show up in one of the font lists here. I haven't tried that yet, but that's something I know it can do. So if you don't know where the Google fonts are, of course you can go down over to the Google, and you can go to the Google font window, whatever it's called, Google fonts.google.com, I believe it is, right? Fonts.google.com. There it is. So again, that program Sketch you can go and download the font and use this font in the application as you're working. Very popular font here, and so on. So any of these fonts can be used. At least that's what it says. Some of the things you'll notice is that it has pre-made, at least in this program, it has what we call symbols. So if I open up, let's say I open up something, I don't know, where am I at here, where I need some artwork here. Let me click on something other than text. Here we go. So let's say you click on something like this in the program. One of the things you'll notice in this program is they have something called create symbols. Okay, and what symbols are is a way in this program to reuse content over and over again. So let's say you're designing 4 screens like we did last class. Remember I made 4 different screens. You use one piece of artwork across all 4 screens, again using something called a symbol, and the advantage of using the symbol is once you change the symbol once, it'll change on all the screens, almost like a CSS file, right? Same thing. Okay, so that's one of the features in here, and in fact you can make symbols inside of Illustrator as well, right? You can use them in Illustrator as well, and in fact they're called symbols in Illustrator, the same thing. The other thing as far as grouping is, I think one of the last things I talked about last class about this program was how you can type in some text. If I type in some text and I don't know, give it my title, whatever, you can actually go and over here and make it a style. Okay, and you'll see there's already styles already in this one because these are the styles that are built into the material design, so you can see them. But you can make your own styles as well, and you'll see the list right here. There's like a little style window right here. It says no text style, but I can actually make a text style, create new text style. So if I had, let's say, colored this text, oops, whoosh, how did I lose that? If I color this text, and then I give it a specific size, and then I change it a little bit, whatever you want. Boy, that's some beautiful text there. No, it's ugly text, but beside the point. I can then go and save that style right here, and give it a name, Jeff's title, and then throughout my design from screen to screen to screen, I can then just go over and, as soon as I type in some text or grab some text that's not locked. Of course, we haven't talked about lock yet. These are probably locked text. Yeah, I can't change that. But if this text is probably locked. If I type in some text, it can be the same stuff. You get the idea? Okay, so you can have styles. You can have fonts that you download from Google Fonts, as well as you can have a symbol that you can reuse over and over again. So let's try another one. Again, if you go under File, New, you'll get File, New from Template. You got your different options. If you choose Web Design, let's choose Web Design. I'm going to choose and just like the first screen that we were looking at, you don't have to go to that screen. You can just go here where it says File, New Template, and I can choose Web Design. And what is it going to give me? Well, instead of having to make the art boards like I did last class, they come pre-made, okay? And so they give you 3 different ones for here. I think last class we did 4. If you click on them, it'll tell you the dimensions. This is 1024 by 1024. This one is going to be 768 by 1024. This one's going to be 320 by 1024. And now the reason why I think we had 4 is because going from tablet to mobile is a pretty big leap in this case. If you look at it, you'll see that you're going from a 768 width all the way down to a 320 width, and that's a pretty big leap. And really, there's a lot of devices that are in between there, and so that's sort of why I think 4 is probably more of a accurate way of if you're planning. I think maybe 4 might be better. I don't know. In addition, if you choose the like I just said, the template that we chose, it does start with this document right here, and gives you some information about symbols and textiles. It's a collection of symbols and textiles for quick mocking up web apps created by your friends at Bohemian Coding and released out of an MIT license. The document has 2 pages as follows. Again, they do have 2 pages up here. 2 pages as follows. Welcome page with some default artboards for responsive design, and a collection of all symbols available in the document. So they have some pre-made stuff already here, and you can see it right here. Again, it looks like it has some text and some styles, as well as some symbols. I don't know what symbols they got here. What symbols? Oh, okay, they got the basic square, triangle, oval, and so on. So let's just look at how to put some of this work onto the screen. Again, this is like any other application. It's like Illustrator or anything like that. You have tools. Now, it actually has a pen tool. It does. If you go under Insert is where most of it is. In fact, what you can do is you can, the ribbon, and I know the term ribbon, I kind of come over from Office, right? If you ever used Office, Word or Excel or something, they call the top bar up here ribbon. You can actually, I'm not sure what they call it here, a toolbar, I guess. You can actually customize this. If you right click on it, you can then say customize your toolbar up here. And so if you are somebody who works with specific content that they want to use, you can actually put it in the toolbar at the top. So you can, so right now you can see that this is what's there. You want to add something there, you can actually drag it down here, I believe. No? How about double clicking on it? No. I don't know how to customize. Drag, that's what I thought. Yeah, drag the default set into the toolbar. Drag, no. Drag, no. Or drag the default set on into the toolbar.
You have to take something out of the toolbar.
Maybe I have too many things in there, right? Okay, let's leave the default. I'm sure you could figure that out. All I want to do is, they do have a vector tool. If those of you who love your pen tool inside of Illustrator, it's there. They have a pencil tool like in Illustrator, and it works like Illustrator where you're making objects. Okay, you're not making pixels like in Photoshop, and it does have the ability to bring in things like that. So let's just make a quick mock-up. You can bring in images and things like that. First thing I'm going to do is put in some shapes. I'm going to put a rectangle on my screen, and I'm going to draw a rectangle at the top of my screen here. So let's say this is going to be the header of my web page. I'm going to put a rectangle at the top. The other thing it can do is things like masks. So in order to have a header at the top of my web design here, I'm going to bring in an image. And so I'm going to go File, Import. Oh no, you don't do that. You go Insert Image. And I go and Find My Image. Let me find an image. I'm sure I have one somewhere. I don't have any pictures. How about some eagles? What's this? Is this an eagle? It is an eagle. It's a stolen eagle. Well, whatever. So I can shrink this stolen eagle down. Uh-oh, where did it go? I lost it. Went over here. There it is. So I'm going to kind of put it towards the top up here. There we go. And so, and I can, it's pretty small now already, right? Yeah, it's fitting in there. So if I want, I can actually use that rectangle that I put on there first as a mask for this. So if I want, I can select both of them. Remember the rectangle I first put in there? It's going to look kind of funny. Let me move it up so the big eagle is kind of on the screen. Oh, let's not do that. Where's my rectangle? Hold on. Let me move this up. There we go. I want to see the eagle. Hold on. So just like in Photoshop where you have layers, in this program you also have, there we go. That looks pretty good. Okay. So in this case, what I want to do is I'm going to select both. Here's the image as well as the rectangle, and I can go and mask the image out by going underneath the layer window and saying use as mask. What that'll do is it'll block out the picture, the outside the picture, so you only see that part. So this could be a nice sort of header for my app or my web page. And once it's a mask, you can actually move it around inside there. And so they got things, and we could do this in Illustrator as well as Photoshop. Like I said, in Illustrator, if you were going to do something like this, it would be called a clipping mask, right? Anybody remember Illustrator? No. Some of us were in the Illustrator class. Okay. Same kind of idea. So you know, this tool, this program works very similar to Illustrator or some other application. Let's talk about putting, let's just quickly put some more content in here, and then we'll get to the book stuff. So if you want, I'm going to put a little banner at the top up here for my logo. And again, you can put in objects, and notice how I put a rectangle in. Rectangles can have both borders and fills. Of course, in Illustrator, it'd be called stroke and a fill, right? So you can turn off if you don't want a stroke. I'm going to make this a different color, maybe. We're going to do red, white, and blue, I guess, here. Maybe a dark red, and as well as you can turn the opacity down. There we go. So we could do things like that. One of the problems that, well, actually it's not a problem. It can actually take advantage of the opacity. When you're exporting out of this program, it will actually give you the CSS for your design. It'll actually give you CSS of your design, and it will take advantage of the transparency in CSS3, right? Because if you make an object and it has, you know, red, green, and blue, but it also has the alpha option. So if you do have things that have opacity like this and you export it out, it can export out the transparency in the CSS. So just pointing that out now that we have opacity here. And I mean, the whole purpose of this is it can actually write a lot of the content, the pre-made content before you even go to hand coding. I know we all love our hand coding, but it's a good starting point. Again, the reason why we would use something like this application is it would be a good starting point, at least to start your content. So again, let's just throw in some things. You can throw in some text. Oh, it still has my style from last time. Did you see that? Birds of a feather, isn't that a phrase? That was my style. Whoosh, that's too small. Where's my style? I did like my style. No, I guess I'd have to make one. Ooh, Angry Birds, there you go. There's the type. I wonder if you can download Angry Birds as a typeface for CSS. There we go. We're going all out now. Why is it not showing? Oh, I guess I have to highlight it. What was I going with? Angry Birds? There we go. There we go. So in addition, woo, that's nice and pretty. Just like I said, if you're using the Google fonts when it exports out the CSS out of this program, it'll actually include the Google fonts that you have used in your design. Let's make a kind of a navigational bar. They do have pre-made buttons, okay, and check boxes and forms and input elements and call outs and radio buttons and select buttons. So they do have some pre-made. Again, there are some symbols here, and the reason why there's some symbols in the symbols window already is because I started with a template, right? I started with the web design template. If you start with a blank one, the symbols will be blank. If you start with a new document that doesn't have anything, and then you would add your symbols in here. They do have the ability to put a button on there. Oops, my thing is being cropped out somehow. Why can't I move it? Again, the Photoshop. Really? How did I get it behind here? I guess you can lock things and hide things with the little eyeball. You see there's an eyeball here. If I want to hide something, I can do that. Just like in Illustrator or Photoshop. You can hide and lock things. You can lock something by right-clicking on it and then go into where it says lock. Where's lock? I know there's a lock somewhere. Lock layer. There you go. So you can't, once you have something, you might want to lock it so you don't mess with it. Lock it. Just like you can in Illustrator. This is my text. Here's my button. Why can't I move my button? I can make it bigger. Why it won't let me move my button? You can see it here. How about if I delete it? I'll make my own button. How about that? You can make things like, again, you have rectangle, oval, rounded rectangle, star, polygon, triangle. You want a round button. I could make it a button, give it some color, which it doesn't seem to be showing up. I don't know why. Nothing is working for me here. Maybe I need to bring it to the front. Object arrange. There's a range. Bring backwards, move to back. I swear, I have an object. Oh, it's seeing it as a mask. Everything's masked here. I don't want it as a mask. That's why. I don't want a mask. Okay. And why no, I don't want to use it as a mask. It's everything that's putting in this folder is being masked. That's why. You can see the down arrow. Everything's going in here for some reason. And I'm not sure why. Why unmask this? There, I guess ignore underlying mask. Not sure why. Okay, so let's say you want to make a button for your navigation. You're not going to make it a symbol. Okay, so the problem with symbols, though, let's say that I was going to make this a button for a web design mockup. I could put some text in here, call it whoosh. That's pretty big. And call it, let's say, products. Whatever. And I can highlight it and I can make it smaller. A lot smaller. A lot smaller. There we go. So I can call it and let's use a different color. There we go. So here's what you don't want to do is you don't want to make this a symbol. You would think that would be the way to go. Hey, I have an object I want to reuse over and over again. The problem with that, though, of course, is that a symbol can only be the same. If I took the text, let's say, what am I trying to say is let's duplicate this. Again, to duplicate anything is option, click, and drag. So let's say I'm making a navigational bar here. And if I made this a symbol, I wouldn't be able to retype this to a different text, is what I'm trying to say, because the symbol has to have everything the same. So I wouldn't be able to have services and so on. So you don't necessarily make that a symbol. What you could do, though, is after you're done making a whole navigational bar, make that a symbol and then reuse that in the different designs throughout, if that makes any sense. And so, you can quickly make a navigational bar. And the way I would do this would be, if you wanted to do this in Photoshop the same way, I would make groups, right? You ever do that in Photoshop? If you're making a mock-up in Photoshop, quickly get to Photoshop. If I was making a mock-up, of course in Photoshop you do have the web design options here. And so you can put in your web design. In Photoshop, what I could do is I still use vector objects like this. Let's say I'm making a navigation. Whoosh, look at this. That's a big stroke on this one. Whoosh. Whatever. And let me zoom in here. So in Photoshop, I can do the similar stuff. You know, let's say products. And let's put in our text. And whatever. Whoosh. Boy, that's ugly. In Photoshop, what I would do is if I'm going to duplicate this and use it over and over again, in Photoshop, I would make it into a group. So underneath in the layers window in Photoshop, you can do, I selected both layers and I would make new group from layers like this in Photoshop. And it makes a group, we'll call this buttons. And then I would then go and duplicate that group. And you'll notice I have another group here, and then I could change the text there. If I could get to the text. There it is. No. Where's my text tool? There it is. Oops. You probably should center line and so on. So you could do something very similar in Photoshop. Again, if you're using Photoshop to make mock-ups, keep things in folders like this. You could put things in groups. Same with in Sketch here. We can actually put groups in here. So as I'm going along here, I could have grouped this rectangle and products. I can select both layers that you see me, because these are together, right? You got products and you got this rectangle. I can actually go and create that into a group. Not a symbol. Again, you don't want to make a symbol because that symbol has to have the same information in each one. But you can make this in a group just like I showed in Photoshop, and I believe it's under, there is a way of grouping. Where's group? Group, folder group.
You can't resize text in Sketch, though, can you? Like you can in Photoshop, where you can drag it.
No, you resize like you have over here. Under the insert window, shapes, there's a rounded. There is a way to group this. I know there is. I could figure it out. Combined. No. Well, let's move on. I believe there's a way to organize your stuff over here is what I'm trying to say, in a way that I showed you in Photoshop. And so on. So, you know, this is a simple kind of application. It doesn't have a lot of things, but I think if you have a Mac, I know it's not on Windows, and I know a lot of you people are Windows lovers, right? Let's see, 4 of you already.
I have a Mac.
Okay.
My dad was for Apple. He killed me if I had anything else.
Whoosh! Daniel, you Windows or Mac person? Oh, he's got a Mac. You go both ways? That's good. I have a Windows too. I have Windows and Mac both myself. Okay, but all I'm trying to say is I wanted to point out this application. I know it's Mac only. I'm going to go over a complete layout. I didn't bring it today, but I've already made one from a ceramics website, my wife's ceramics website. You know, you should really start thinking about content and making some nice content so that you can have a nice page. Think of what Jennifer's doing here with all her, what is it, Marvel? Are you Marvel?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not DC, I hope.
No.
Okay.
The Flash is DC.
I know, you don't have to tell me that. Okay, so, but you see how she has all that content, right? And so, you know, you gotta try and find some nice content that you can build yourself a layout with, right? And a space with that you can put in a portfolio of some kind. You have a question, Miranda? This is just a rectangle, yes, that has some opacity on it. Oh, I locked it. It's right here. Here. It's one of these.
That's
It's that one.
Yeah.
53% on opacity.
Yeah.
Do you use something to convert the colors and make that different colored edges?
Which edges?
The font, the
Oh, the text you mean with the
text shadow.
it does have a shadow. It's down here. And like I said, when you export this out as CSS, it actually takes all those considerations that you have. Yeah, so there is a white shadow by default on this.
Wait, you can export this as an actual web page?
Yes. Well, it'll give you a starting point, and then you would go and customize it. It will actually export out the CSS for you and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Will it
noticed-
export it out as an HTML?
It'll export that out.
I noticed there's H1 and H2 tags in there without
Yeah, that's what I would use, because then it'll export it out. So you can customize the H1 with your own font, color, and all that stuff, and when you export it out, it'll actually bring that to you. It'll write the CSS for you. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop now. This is just an introduction to this. Next week, we'll go a little bit more detail on how to do those things that I'm talking about. I want to finish with the book reading, what we were doing last class with the responsive design and how to calculate the dimensions. Remember that? So I'm going to go back to that book. But I just wanted, if you want to start practicing with this application, next week I am going to go through a whole demo of how to take something that's been laid out and then how to export it out. So you might want to, my whole point is that you might want to build your own sample and try it. Or you can download my sample, but you don't want to make, you're not going to put my wife's ceramics website in your portfolio. Okay, so you should make your own sample. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Let me stop this video.